In this video, we're going to change this old 1970s faucet and rusty drain. But I want to show you, this is what my bathroom looked like before. What's the one thing that didn't change? The faucet. It's been 8 years since I made over my half bathroom, but I was so intimidated to change the faucet myself that I just left it. It doesn't even match the bathroom. Well, today in this video, I'm going to show you everything that I did to change that rusty drain and get rid of that disgusting faucet with the wood handles. I mean, come on, Serena. Okay, so here's probably the reason why you haven't done it, because you're intimidated. If you look underneath of my sink, it's old, 1970s. I mean, they don't even use metal drains anymore. Everything is PVC, plastic. And even though there is some PVC, it's an old PVC. So let's start with the first thing we're going to do. We're going to turn off the water. And if your house is old like mine, you probably have a hard time turning the water off. Now, this is the cold water that I'm turning off. And if you have a pair of channel locks, pliers, which you are going to need, use that just to kind of give it a little bit of a turn. And then you can turn that all the way off. Do that for the left, which is the hot, and the right, which is the cold. Make sure there's no water left in the faucet, and there wasn't. And we're going to start with removing that faucet. But first, we're going to remove the lever. And I will tell you, make sure you have a bucket underneath of your vanity. And by all means, get something to put under your back. It is so hard when you're back doing this. And it depends on the faucet that you have. I thought that I would need to remove this screw in order to pull that lever out. But actually, if you look in between those two faucets, all I needed to do was to loosen up that little wooden ball, and I could pull the lever out from the top. So that's what I did. Okay, so you're going to use your channel locks and just loosen up these bolts. You're probably going to have, if you have a newer sink, it might be a braided hose. But here you see I've got like metal hosing because it's very old. And once you've loosened those, then go ahead and remove these. And this is going to be, you can take those off. You're not going to need those. And then you can just lift up. Now, because my house is really old, this thing was stuck on there, but it doesn't mean it's not coming up. It should just lift right up. You want to use a razor blade and clean up anything that's there because you're going to put your nice new faucet down. You don't want to put it on gunk. So clean that up, put the new faucet in place, and it should have its own locking clips, which you see there, which are the gray clips. And you will just hand tighten those. Don't use any kind of channel locks or anything. Just hand tighten those. And then I'm going to use plumber's tape. This is Teflon tape, to just kind of secure around the threads before putting these bolts back on. Now you see that I'm turning to the right here to lock those. Make sure that you're putting the Teflon tape, the plumber's tape, in the same direction. And you can use your pliers in order to tighten those up. Now the next thing is we're going to remove this drain and we're going to remove the P-trap. So we're going to loosen this right underneath of the bottom of the sink. And then we're going to focus on those two nuts, the small one and the large one, which is part of the P-trap. And can I just say that it's nasty that I'm not wearing gloves? For some reason, I was just like, I don't need it. But yeah, you probably get yourself some gloves. Another thing I'll say too, as you're loosening this up and you're taking this P-trap off, is to make sure that you have a bucket underneath because there will be some really nasty water coming out of here. But also have some towels and a bristle brush so that you can clean this up. And why do I have a mechanical pencil down my drain? I have no idea. I have children. Oh, that's the answer. Now, you'll also notice that you have some sizes on the side of your P-trap. Make sure you note those because if you go to Home Depot, you want to make sure you're getting the right size. But you shouldn't have to replace your P-trap. And you'll notice as I'm moving this tail piece that the top is starting to loosen up, which is good, which is what we want. But I want to point out here that these pieces that we're removing, we don't want to throw those away. And I did by accident. That washer is important. That's going to help prevent leaks. And you're also going to want to keep the locking nut. So we're going to put that aside, clean it up with a bristled brush if needed. And I'm just going to hold this tailpipe in place and then use another set of pliers to unscrew the top part. And then I should be able to just remove that completely. And you can see why I needed to replace that. It is completely rusted out. And this is where I really love razor blades too, because you can clean up the gunk in the sink. You can use some Comet, but just make sure it's clean. Now I'm going to be using a push and seal drain replacement, which I love, but I want to point out a couple of things. This is actually not the correct setup. I think I put this on here incorrectly. You'll notice there is a gasket at the top, which you need, but the other gasket in the middle is upside down. And then the locking clip that's also upside down. So make sure you look at the instructions to make sure that you've got everything in the correct position. But also reading the instructions will tell you whether or not you need plumber's putty. Some videos will tell you to use it, but it really depends on the drain. Now I'm using a Pfister drain, which is a push and seal drain, and it specifically tells you there's no putty needed. In fact, it could cause a malfunctioning of the drain if you use this putty. So once I realized my mistake, then I took the putty out and just cleaned off the seal to make sure that there was none left. But read the instruction manual first. And if I had read the instruction manual, I would have known that I was putting that gasket in upside down incorrectly, and the locking clip went in upside down incorrectly. So you'll notice that I realized my mistake, I take them off, and I put it in properly. And the reason why I leave these mistakes in here is because I want you to know, as someone like me who's never done this before, you're probably going to make similar mistakes as well. But don't let it deter you from trying this. And when you're done, you'll feel good about yourself. Anyway, I just hand tightened that. Didn't use any channel locks to tighten that. And then the next thing was to put the P-trap back on. Now here's where I made some mistakes again. I did not use that little rubber gasket, the one I told you that's pretty important to use. Now you'll see that I'm just putting this on, starting with the large locking clip and then doing the small locking clip. Two mistakes. First of all, the tape that I'm using, the Teflon tape, is going in the wrong direction, and I did not use the little gasket, the little washer. So when I go to turn the water back on, what do you think happened? I had leaks, of course. I don't know why I thought that I would get this right on the first try, but I didn't. There were two places where I had leaks. The first one was at the top because I didn't hand tighten it enough to hold that tail of the drain in place. And so that was one issue. The other issue was not only was my Teflon tape in the wrong direction, but I didn't have that washer in place. And so that locking clip, it wasn't doing anything. So take a look at this. I'm going in the wrong direction here. Make sure you do your Teflon tape in the opposite direction. And again, that's the washer that I needed to keep. So I threw it away, ended up having to go to Home Depot to get a new one. And I went ahead and put one in. And you can see that's where I put it right there. Now, when I turned it on, guess what? No leaks. Now it is still a little crooked, but I tightened it thoroughly, put the Teflon plumber's tape in the correct position, and tightened up that larger locking nut. So let's take a look at what it looked like before and what it looks like now. Oh my gosh. I know it's such a small thing, but it's this thing that I was really embarrassed about when people would come to my home. This is the guest bathroom. And for someone to come in and see that old rusty drain, an old faucet, I just felt embarrassed. And now I've got a beautiful one. So you got to come back again for the next video in this bathroom series leading up to the larger reveal of the bathroom makeover that I did in my friend's bathroom. But I want to know from you, have you ever changed your faucet before? And if you have, was it easy? Or did you find it difficult? Hopefully these instructions, along with my experience, helps you have a better bathroom. I'll see you next video.